Chronovisor. In the 1960s, Father Pellegrino Maria Ernetti, an Italian priest, claimed to have invented a time machine of what he called Chronovisor, which allowed him to see in the future and past. He described that the device looked a bit like a television. However, instead of receiving broadcasts from local transmission stations, the Chronovisor could tune into the past to allow the viewer to see and hear events that had occurred years or even centuries earlier. He claimed that the machine worked by detecting all the sights and sounds that humanity had made that still floated through space. The device supposedly enabled viewers to watch any event in human history by tuning into the remnant vibrations that are caused by every action. Even though he lacked hard evidence for these claims, he said that he had witnessed, among other major historical events, such as the founding of Rome in 53 BC. On his deathbed in 1994, he said that he attended a meeting of all the people involved in the Chronovisor at the Vatican, during which the only existing machine was destroyed. He stated that, in the wrong hands, it could create the most fearsome dictatorship the world has ever seen. Unsurprisingly, conspiracists say that the Chronovisor is still being used today and is located somewhere in the Vatican, hidden in one of the many chambers.
There is a place within the Vatican that's rarely seen. Hidden beneath the city is an underground fortress, inaccessible to the public and protected by armed guards and state-of-the-art security. The secret apostolic archives. Within the stone and steel reinforced walls are vaults, climate-controlled rooms, and over 50 miles of shelves. And on those shelves are countless texts, relics, and artifacts collected by the church for over 1,000 years. And one of the most intriguing objects hidden in the archive is called the Chronovisor, a device that can view events anywhere and any time in history. And for years, its existence was just a rumor. No proof of the Chronovisor was ever found. But a book released by a Vatican priest would change all that. Pellegrino Ernetti was a scientist, world-class authority on music, and a scholar. He also happened to be a Benedictine monk. Now, whether by luck or by fate, Father Pellegrino Ernetti found himself in the company of Francois Brune, a priest from France. And they were sharing a ferry ride down the Grand Canal in Venice. The water was calm and the trip was long, so the men struck up a conversation. They shared a love of languages, science, and history. And they were discussing different interpretations of the Bible, Ernetti said. It's possible to see what actually happened, to see the truth with your own eyes. The Brune thought Ernetti was joking or being rhetorical. He wasn't. Ernetti spoke of a device he had worked on hidden in the deepest, most secret levels of the Vatican archive, a device that allowed its operator to witness events anywhere and any time in the past, and it was called the Chronovisor.
Ooh, a time machine?
Well, sort of. You can't travel anywhere with the Chronovisor, but you can program it to show you certain events on a screen, like a television.
Oh boy, you can stream anything these days.
Now, Francois Brune was stunned by the story. He knew Father Pellegrino Ernetti to be a serious man. Ernetti was well-read, well-educated, and well-respected in the church. He was not one for exaggeration. Yet Ernetti claimed to have heard speeches by Napoleon and Mussolini. He visited ancient Rome. Brune wanted to know about the events in the Bible. Did they really happen? It's all true, Ernetti said. He had seen the final days of Jesus, including his crucifixion. He saw the creation of the Ten Commandments, the Last Supper, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and everything in the Bible. Now, Brune was obviously skeptical. Even though Ernetti was intelligent and talented, he didn't have the skill and knowledge needed to build this kind of device. And Ernetti agreed that he couldn't build the Chronovisor himself. He had help. In 1952, Father Pellegrino Ernetti was working on a project at the Catholic University of Milan. And being an expert in early Christian music, he was studying and restoring tape recordings of Gregorian chants. And while listening to one of the tapes, the school's founder, Father Agostino Gemelli, was convinced he heard his father's voice, even though his father was dead at the time of the recording. But what Gemelli heard was not his dead father relaying some profound message to his son from beyond the grave. What he heard was more mundane. His father arguing with someone over the price of shoe wax. Gemelli's father was a cobbler who made and sold shoes. And Gemelli thought he'd been given a gift from God. But Ernetti wondered if there was a scientific reason for this, that the sights and sounds of people in the past somehow continued to exist long after they happened. And if they did, could they be detected?
It sounds like EVPs.
Well, it does. And this technology is not that different from what we now call EVPs or electronic voice phenomena. And since Gemelli was president of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, he was able to fund a project to explore the possibility of listening or seeing events from the past. Ernetti assembled a team of 12 scientists, but he would only reveal the names of 2. And one was Enrico Fermi, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist known for Fermi's paradox and for creating the world's first nuclear reactor. The other scientist was Nazi rocket scientist turned director of NASA, Wernher von Braun. Like sound waves can be pressed into vinyl to produce a recording, Ernetti said that his team had discovered that light and sound continue to exist as forms of energy. And using a series of antennas, the Chronovisor could detect this residual electromagnetic radiation and translate it into image and sound. Operators of the Chronovisor could designate a specific date and location, then the scene was reconstructed on a large cathode ray tube. Now, Francois Brune was obviously amazed by the story and asked Ernetti what happened to the device. Ernetti said that once the team realized what they had invented, they brought their discovery to the Pope. And since the Chronovisor could tune into any place and time in the past, it could be used as a powerful weapon. It could reveal state secrets or be used for blackmail. So Pope Pius XII worried that, in the wrong hands, the Chronovisor could launch a dictatorship unlike anything the world had ever seen. The Pope ordered the machine dismantled and forbid anyone from speaking of it. Ernetti said this was the first he's spoken of it in over 10 years. And Brune understood and agreed that a machine like the Chronovisor would be extremely dangerous, and it was probably best if it stayed hidden and dismantled. But Brune said to Ernetti, "It's too bad there's no proof that the Chronovisor actually worked." Ernetti said to Brune, "My friend, I have proof." Quintus Ennius was a writer and poet who lived during the Roman Republic between 239 and 169 BC. He's often considered the father of Roman poetry. And during his lifetime, he wrote about 20 plays and an epic poem on the history of Rome called the Annals, but only a few fragments of his work survive. His final play, Thyestes, was produced shortly before his death in 169 BC, and scholars have wondered about this play for centuries. They knew the story was based on the writing of another author, Seneca, but the actual text of Thyestes, except for a few lines, has been lost to history. Ernetti used the Chronovisor to visit Rome in 169 BC, where he saw a performance of the play in a Roman square. Ernetti, fluent in Latin, was able to transcribe and finally complete Ennius's play after 2,000 years, and that manuscript still exists. The story of the Chronovisor remained hidden for another 12 years or so. Then in 1972, an article appeared in the Italian magazine La Domenica del Corriere.
Show off.
The headline of the article was, "A machine that photographs the past has finally been invented." And some believe that the Chronovisor was not dismantled, but was actually functional and being used by the church to maintain watch and control of the population.
That theory makes sense.
Oh, you believe that one, huh?
What, does the Pope in the woods?
Soon, several photos were leaked. But again, the Chronovisor fell out of the public eye.
Or the information was suppressed by the church.
Or that. Well, then in 2002, Francois Brune released his book called The New Mystery of the Vatican, which documents his relationship with Ernetti and includes more details of what Ernetti saw with the Chronovisor, and even includes blueprints for the machine. And Father Pellegrino Ernetti passed away in 1994, but until his dying day, he swore the Chronovisor was real. He even published an open letter saying so. Father Francois Brune passed away in 2019, and during his life, he published multiple books and papers on theology and its relationship to quantum physics. He gave talks on EVP phenomena, communicating with spirits, and many different aspects of parapsychology. He too, until his last day, believed the Chronovisor existed and possibly still exists today. Two highly regarded and well-respected clergymen insisted that the Vatican is in possession of the most important, most advanced, and most dangerous scientific invention ever created. The Vatican denies telling the truth.
In real time, I was involved in a range of time travel activities under the aegis of DARPA that Project Pegasus was then involved in. Everything from conventional remote viewing of distant targets in real time, which is a form of psychic time travel, all the way to through the form of physio-virtual time travel, the major one being the Chronovisor of Ernetti, Gemelli, and Fermi. The Chronovisor being not a teleporter, but a device that propagated a moving color hologram of a past or future event, that when we looked at the hologram, it was essentially a looking glass in which we could see a past or future event going on. However, there was a paradox, and that was that if we stood on the stage of the Chronovisor while the hologram was brought in around us, we subjectively experienced going to that past time and place, at least on what I call a physio-virtual basis. In other words, on a basis that included both physical aspects and virtual aspects.